En quoi la revendication d'un salaire peut-elle s'inscrire dans une stratégie de lutte contre le travail?
We can go into a whole discussion. We have no time tonight about work and labor, etc., right? Whether work and labor. I want to make the distinction, though, at the moment, because there was this slogan in the 1960s in Italy, which has been picked up again by Marxists, autonomist Marxists, refusal of work. And refusal of work was very important, in the context of the struggle, particularly by industrial workers, in Italy in 68, 69, saying no, work means exploitation, so no to work. On the other hand, over time, and particularly when you take the concept, right, in relation to reproductive work, to the question of reproduction, domestic work, then it becomes a bit more complicated. And whereas I'm ready to say yes, no to any forms of unpaid labor, then when we talk about, refusal of labor in relation to reproduction, then we also have to look at it, I think, in a more articulated way. Why? The process of reproduction, reproducing the activity that reproduce our lives, right? They really have a double component. They have a double component that creates, in fact, a contradiction. Creates a contradiction that we all live, and particularly, I think, is particularly intensely lived by parents, when they have to figure out what they're going to tell their children. The components are that on one side, these activities reproduce our life. On the other, the same activities that reproduce our life have been captured, by capitalism and subsumed to the reproduction of our life, but in a particular way, right? As exploitable human beings, right? And so it's a reproduction that is continuously channeled towards objectives that are contrary to our well-being, right? So we want to refuse that path to reproductive work and the forms of reproductive work that are actually reproduction for exploitation. We cannot easily speak of refusal of work in total because we cannot refuse the reproduction of our own life. So it's a question, actually, of thinking of a relationship to reproduction, right? That in a way reclaim those activities, but on another level. That liberate them from their subjugation to the ends, of capitalist accumulation, right? So today, I'm much less ready to say, refusal of reproductive work. Well, if you have a child, you cannot refuse reproductive work. No, I'm not going to nurse my child because I'm in refusal of work. So I will see my child die, and I'm not going to nurse my child, or I'm not going to take care of someone in my family who is sick because I'm a refusal of work. So this, we have to see, and this is, I think, is the struggle. So the struggle, in my view, is to reclaim our capacity to reproduce ourselves, away from the exploitation of capitalism, and at the same time, be able to expand those parts of reproduction that, in fact, are, enhancing the quality of our life. This is really the challenge. And, for instance, wages for housework was the beginning also of a process of reappropriation, right? It was the beginning of a process of reappropriation because it meant, right, we have done all this work. Let's reappropriate some of the wealth that we have produced. It doesn't mean that it can only come in a monetary way. We can also ask free housing. We can also ask all kinds of demand, depending on the context. depending on the context in which you live, right? But it's that campaign was also the beginning of refusal of unpaid labor, refusal to do more and more work in order to be able to have a minimum of autonomy, which is what is happening now, because we have to see what has happened. And at the same time, open a process of reappropriation of the well-produced. Yeah. And so in a way, you can say clearly that wages for household was refusal of work, because today women are doing 2-3 jobs, right? You have women who are selling their children in surrogacy motherhood to be able to have some money. Let's see what has happened. Wages for household is not being embraced by the women's movement. You know, the women's movement has embraced emancipation through the wage job, etc. Well, you know, in the United States, the majority of people who have a debt, and are working and getting more and more indebted are women with a wage job. Many of them work, sometimes 2 jobs, and they are not able to get enough autonomy to support their needs, to support their families or themselves. And so they use the wage as a collateral to gain a loan. And together with the big entry of women into wage labor, we had the formation of these payday loan company. You have them here, you must have them here. Payday loan company. These are companies, they give a loan to people the day they get the paycheck. So you get the paycheck and you run to get a loan because the paycheck doesn't pay enough. That means you're becoming more, you're working to get more and more into that. So we have to see also the alternative, right? We have to see the alternative. So it was a refusal. It was a refusal of work to say, no, we're not going to do 3-4 jobs. Let's begin to be paid for the work that we already do.